Hey there, I'm Matt Coffey. I'm excited to share some insights with you today. With over 15 years in this digital marketing world, including running an agency that sold to med spas, I built a multi-million dollar agency. I've gained a unique perspective on what it takes to succeed in this really ever evolving landscape. Today, diving into a concept which I think can transform people's businesses like you, and really talking about the niche, making you the niche. Now, imagine a world where your business is unique, really just as authentic as you are. A world where, you're not confined to a narrow niche, but you're free to express your true self. So in this session, I'm going to teach you, or you're going to learn, hopefully, how to break from traditional business models and then create a niche that's truly yours. It's my direction of what I'm doing now. We'll explore sort of the philosophical concepts here, the practical steps, and real world examples help you understand what the ultimate niche is, which is you. With my experience in digital marketing, including, again, buying and or selling a digital agency for multi-million dollar agency that I sold, I've seen the firsthand limitations of the traditional business models of running agencies. I've also witnessed a huge power, really authenticity, in building a successful brand. Right. By the end of this session, you'll have a clear understanding of how to create a niche that resonates with you and your audience and sets you apart from the competition. It's exactly what I'm doing today with my brand. I kind of realized this a few years ago, and I went through a lot of pain and struggle. So when you start to become embarking on this journey of becoming like this free individual, like the first thing you want to do is niche down, right? Everybody tells you it's like the social matrix we have, or this is in the way of a business matrix. All these ideas that how businesses are supposed to work and operate. Like the social matrix is influenced by culture and school systems and governments. Students don't question what they're told. The cycle continues. We continue to create a ever uh, replicating society. Believe me, I have kids in school and I just can't. What's going on? It's not a bad thing. It's just how we learn to survive. But if we don't question what we've learned and we end up becoming these clones, unaware of our potential, that's what lies out there in the unknown. Now, the business matrix is just a sort of web of ideas and beliefs that illustrate how businesses are supposed to operate. Think of it as advice that you get from education on how to start a business, usually from people online who scream niche, 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 niche. Pick a niche, pick a skill, do something that you want to do over and over again. Do you work? Do you care about the people? Do you care about these people who are in the niche? What's a life to live without caring about the niche? You're a human. You have to actually like this people. So you kind of learn by being exposed to this beginner level knowledge, and then you get to the intermediate level, which is where I am. The thing is, who questions this beginner level knowledge from the start? It's really kind of interesting. If you're absolutely sure it's the best way to go, maybe that's how you should do it, right? Go pick a niche, go pick a niche, go pick a niche. It's the most conductive results. Or does it cause more confusion than people make out of it and you quit? So you decided to start this business because you wanted to escape this kind of mechanical world of meaningless lifestyles of trying to work for somebody or trying to work for a job. But then those who break free of it, this into this business matrix, whatever they want to do, when they finally break free, it might not be how things work. See, first you learn the rules of the game and you create your own rules by breaking the other rules. So you need to play the game that others want for you. So you basically live in a society without learning. Like you learned from your parents and now you learn from other people. But eventually you reflect and you say, well, actually, what can I do? Can you create your own, say, game and make it better and get better results? See, my goal in this session is to kind of give you a complete outline of what your niche should be or might be and contain all the topics that you ever like to talk about throughout the entirety of your brand to create a niche of one or a niche of you. We'll go over some stuff that I think is helping me and a lot of other people understand why niche and why you are the niche is the real philosophy. Then we'll dive into actually how to create the niche, put it on paper or write it down. And then we'll, of course, bake in the common questions like, well, people don't find what I do interesting. Now, how do I start to talk about any of the interests I want? So I'll go back a little bit here. When I began my business journey, I started with just basically doing one-on-one stuff, freelancing, if you want to call it. just doing websites. And I thought the most beginner friendly option was all I had to do was just learn like a simple skill. So I decided to do like anybody else does. I created logos for people. I did video editing. I did graphic design. I did SEO. I did content marketing, ads, and so forth. Problem was always picking a niche because I got everybody. I would endlessly go through like hours of working on trying to think like what to do within the niches. I targeted dentists, I targeted gyms, pest control, whatever, and then ended up eventually with med spa. But there's some problems with this approach, which I learned about. First, I don't care about these people. Boy, talk about having 200 med spas that I don't care about. I like the business, but it's not sustainable. And that's what I learned. The approach is something to really think about your life as work. You're starting a business for a reason. And it's not just to have a new boss or 200 bosses who you don't care about. Some people argue that businesses have to be not necessarily your work, but it can be a way to make money. I agree. Like you don't have to, like if your goal is not to pursue your life's work and you don't care and you just make some money, yeah, sure. Go get a bunch of clients and hope for the best. It really feels like laziness to me at this point. We're at 2025 and I don't really like to have experiences that I don't feel comfortable with because most businesses fail because they try to solve most of these agencies and other businesses because they haven't had the experience. Remember that, if you haven't had the experience in that industry, you might end up failing. Third, it prioritizes finding and not attracting or becoming. You learn a skill for somebody else. You search endlessly for people who reach out to and end up spending more time on just doing lead generation and building leverage. For the remainder of this video, I want you to keep in mind, I'm speaking under the lens of building an audience because this is the new traffic mechanisms for business. Building an audience for you. Building social media, an audience is just how you build a business today. That's why we're doing 1,000 pieces of content in social media a month. It's always been how you build a business in advertising, right? Now, with social media and where all the attention is because no one's watching TV and kids don't even watch anything except for YouTube these days. Most of the attention really is though in social media. And that's really kind of cool for people like you and me who understand that they can, write or put video down and build an audience basically and build a business that way. So what sparked this whole you are the niche thing for me? Well, I think people are operating from a mindset that's way old and that are trying to apply stuff that in the social media age, it's just changing. We're turning into real personal branding conduits. So what I'm hoping to change the thinking process here is to make you understand that you are a person. You can build an audience. You can start to build a hyper profitable business without boxing yourself into some specific niche and selling some product or whatever that, people are telling you. It's no wonder people don't stick to these businesses because the business ideologies around circling this niche business has been dominating the thought process for too long. I've always talked about this, by the way. They're shallow and they really have a lack of regard for human nature and general fulfillment. And that's just one thing. And I think things beyond, they go beyond being shallow. And I learned this. There are better ways to start a business now. And we're going to learn how to create this, you and me together. Create our own niche that's profitable, authentic, and something you actually enjoy doing instead of just trying to run a business that's based off of somebody else's profiles. It's the ending of this sort of shiny object theory. These businesses that you work with happen. Basically, what ends up happening is that you haven't even failed enough or you haven't produced enough to make any niche work. But you can make anything work if you try it hard enough. That's why it's wise to why not create your own, right? Second, build a product or service that you would actually buy and that you would benefit from, right? So you're the niche, create something for you. There ain't many shortcuts here, but this might be one of them. When you think about creating a niche of you that you can focus on, the marketing of the past and your current self, isn't that the most profitable niche because you know the most about it? So you would build a product that you would buy and use for you, right? You'd benefit from it if it was your experience. You'd say, hey, here's something that I've experienced. The words you'd actually stop and read and think about and act on. When you know yourself and you kind of skip ahead to the 99% of businesses that were failing, You kind of experience the problems that they're trying to solve. Is that the fact that most people understand or don't understand? I mean, that they belong to a very specific niche. So think about it. You already follow a bunch of people, right? They talk about a bunch of different interests. And what's created your current personality, your identity, is because you created from the information you've imbibed, right? That you've gotten to a certain point that you feel is important and that you accept it into your brain. So this is one mistake that's creating your niche. Your job is actually to target the person, and you are the specific person who you're narrowing into with one specific interest that you want to sell a product around. Do you have more than one interest? I know I do. Look behind me. Do you already follow people that talk about opinions, their values, their lifestyles, their experience? Talking about one specific skill or interest won't make you more authoritative. People don't trust you anymore if you have one specific thing. At best, you look like a glorified announcer, right? Building an audience that involves you as a person, your interests, all of your interests, all the things that you do, really kind of moves forward. It's basically putting something in front of people is according to your likes, your interests, all the things that you do that you speak about. Now, sure, it might be random people who find you and have no idea who you are. So when they only talk to that niche, they have more difficulty to start. Fewer people will share content, so they can't get in front of the right people. So they may grow to a couple thousand people of followers in a year. But some people who've incorporated multiple interests and become a personality can grow quickly. They can go from thousands to hundreds of thousands. In fact, I've seen this by working with clients that have changed entire generations of people now because they're bringing in their strategy. They're bringing in their thought process. They might not buy from people right away, but there's a lot to unpack here. So think about this. It's like if you talk about interest, the people are not going to buy your product or your service up front. But those people who are aware of you may know people, and they may say, oh, I was listening to so and so. And then all of a sudden you start to get referral business. In fact, most of my business comes from referrals. The network effect of people who are just trying to figure it out end up telling other people about X, Y, and Z. And that's the thing. It's all nuanced. If you want to build a very specific audience where you can lean in and land specific clients and sustain your business, perfectly a fine thing to do. And I'm not complaining. But if you want to evolve and have lots of leverage over time, not only build like digital projects or digital products and build a big network, or just choose a direction that's just more fun. If you want to do things that are like interesting, that bring an audience, it can get better. It's about enjoying the process. And another thing is not to just post about interest, but post about everything. So one of the things is people get tied into the money. They don't get tied into the interest layers. And when you become interested in someone, it gets more fascinating. See, since money is tied to it, people get so money minded, and they narrow down their focus thinking that they have to make money. And that puts your entire business at risk because it changes the dichotomy of what you're trying to do. So I'm not here to try and convince you to become part of my tribe. I'm here to talk about getting people educated and having people want to listen to me because they've learned something. Now, certainly those people can turn into clients if they want, but no matter what the audience is, well, no matter what I'm trying to say, is that you need to upskill yourself in order to do this business correctly, which means you need to talk and be persuasional to some degree. There's ways to do this that are attracting people who are certainly ready to buy. There's no question about it. But it's not about the offer. It's about the entire process of becoming a good person to listen to. And if you're writing content or doing video, you can go from a beginner to an advanced person if you actually speak and talk and become something that people want to listen to by learning and by raising the awareness within people. See, you attract people with this social media by educating them, maybe giving them newsletters or doing emails if you're starting to do production. So your brand is to attract, and the content is to nurture people along. It's not to start to sell people. The third thing is that it's really important. Everybody who is following you is important. And if you're too narrow-minded to try and just say, hey, I just want to get people to buy my stuff, you've got to change the mindset. The lessons you can go on in social media right now, you can read a post, you can become interested, you can get to a new topic, and you weren't born with just these interests. You are persuaded by their importance. It reminds me of like lifting weights. They can give you confidence. They can improve your health. They can make you look good. So you slowly kind of adopt them, but you don't become a huge weightlifter in a day. It takes 10 years. So think about that. Your job is to argue over these interest layers and keep people into persuasive arguments that mean that your niche, yourself, is a job of you to persuade people to be with you. Now, we need to talk what really a niche is, if you want to talk about this. A niche, in general, is a perspective. And it's like me becoming everything, right? A designer, a writer, a marketer, a socializer. I run, I play guitar, I do all these things. I write words and build music and do songwriting. The universe rewards those who don't impose people on limits. So let's break this down. When you're a niche, you're actually changing and constantly evolving because you're improving, right? Then you are literally becoming nicheless, right? If you're constantly evolving and improving and your niche isn't really changing to follow your, let's say, your experience, then you're probably in the wrong type of business and it's not going to be really sustainable. So it's also about growing. Now, you can certainly think about this like in music, where behind me there's guitars. I didn't know how to play at first. Now I play shows and then I move on to bigger shows and now I'm playing with my heroes, right? You have to actually think about these broad-based self-improvement strategies that actually bring people in who want to follow you. Everything is valuable, right? It's worth pursuing self-improvement for this particular thing because if you're going to go and improve yourself on a collective scale, this is where it's interesting. Think about Elon Musk. His niche is self-improvement, but that's the point. It's an expanded version of oneself. And it's an expanded version of some ability for him to actually bring humanity to a bigger space, like put up people on other planets. So if you expand your circle of concern and as you grow, your world of self-improvement, your confidence, your ability to become more of a person as people watch you grow, as you become the niche, right? It's all about becoming an improver. And people want to progress in life. It's identity, and your identity is your niche. So think about this as something that if you wanted to really build your brand, or more practically, your niche is what you're interested in and why your life's important, why your work in your life is important, why you do things. So you don't need to box yourself into these specific skills because you outgrow them anyways. You'll grow bored anyways of the stuff you did a year ago. It won't serve you. So you're sort of a growing entity. So it's like talking about like agency work. I don't care about that anymore. It's stuff I did in the past. So now I'm more interested in this personal structure of building niches around the personal development brand. So the business itself evolves as you evolve as a business owner and someone who is becoming better. Your business is a very narrow niche that you limit to yourself. So why niche down, right? So why niche down into some specific skill when you can niche into your own strategy? So you're always told in these things to create an avatar, identify a burning problem, blah, 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 position a solution towards them. The solution is often the same as any other product or service with some small changes, right? It's just the same thing. The point is to make it perceived as valuable to a specific person understanding them. So here's the kind of hack to this is to recreate what already exists, but make it better, right? And don't overcomplicate it. Make it actually simpler. The thing here is that all products are pretty much the same. A self-help product is the same as a business product. It's solving a problem, right? So they're just positioned toward different people. That's why creating a niche is important. And I can talk about writing and someone else that can talk about writing. So those are the things I'm talking about. I'm talking about the things that are writing towards this new, completely different person that I'm targeting. So I'm targeting my past self, my former self, the problems I had, and the problems I'm trying to solve, and the goals I'm trying to achieve, right? So if I position towards them, if I'm talking about writing and putting video down and position it towards this niche, that's what I'm trying to do. But the thing that makes this different, and this is what I'm trying to get at, is that by targeting me, it becomes so much easier and it goes so deeper, right, than just making money or business. So it's about self improvement, self awareness, and actually building products that help people's lives and working with people that you enjoy. So why don't we just skip all this, right? And treat ourselves to some customer avatar, solve problems that we're actually experiencing, and build a solution that actually benefits our lives. Well, there's some thoughts to put in your head here. Once you grow as a person and an individual, your products start to evolve and you build a new product and distribute a new product, just like I've been doing. In essence, a customer avatar is the mind, worldview, or perspective of someone you're creating or marketing towards. So think about this. So, from a structural basis, this worldview perspective is composed of a few things. Now, for me, as I said before in many videos, the first is just goals, the conscious goals that influence us every single day, the actions I take forward and you take forward, like going to for a run or going to the gym or practicing guitar. One step forward, you're acting towards a goal. You're moving to a specific direction. Everything you do is associated with a goal. It's almost like it's unconscious. In fact, I have a board up in front of me that has all my goals that I look at every single day. These self-generated goals put you in control. Until you make the conscious or the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and it will call you every single day. So just being mindful and living and becoming conscious, right? So we're all sort of goal oriented to try to somewhat become relevant, right? Goals are a framework that you can interpret, right? You can read them and you can put two different people together and they'll have completely different goals, right? They might be radically different. And these are the things that make people completely unique, which is that they notice the goals in different ways, right? And the second thing is that the composer of this niche that you're creating, right, is an identity of problems, right? So either conscious or unconscious, these problems that we have in our life can prevent us from reaching our goals. So the foundation of marketing in a whole, like what we do as a living for marketing, is to kind of keep these people aware of these problems surrounding, these issues, keeping people aware. There's sort of like 5 different levels. If you want to help somebody, you have to actually help somebody. So if you're thinking about this, there's the first goal. People aren't aware of the problem, right? And how it's hurting their quality of life. You're actually going to identify that for them. Sometimes there's the second place, which people are aware of their problem, but they don't know how to solve it. And then there's the main one, which people are they're very aware of this problem, and they know there's a solution, but they haven't done it. And education is a way to solve that problem, which is really what we're talking about in this video. And then there are people who are aware of the problem, know how it is, and know how a system to get to it. And then the people who are really most aware are just ready to make a change, right? So there are certain like layers. They just need to be the right, behavior to make a change. And when you read like in a book, something that changes your entire outlook, that's when you're ready to make a change. It's that last level of problem solving. So all of these landing pages and things that we build are basically alerted to different layers of awareness. So the goals of your personal brand, your visions for the future, the problems along the way is how you're positioning this content and this education. So whatever it might be, the opinions that you have, is it making people aware and make them top of mind. This is where social media comes in, right? Because we're starting at the top of the funnel, where it's usually between these levels of awareness of problem solving. And it starts basically with people in the very beginning stages. And then let's say you get them to get an email, and you send them a newsletter, or you send them, something that relates to them, and you're getting them more aware and aware and aware. So your view, your total view, your niche is your job is to create content, kind of focuses in on people's awareness of these problems. And since you're the niche, you know the problems of your niche. So that way you can basically build easier content to solve these problems. So think about it. Every piece of content you write and the products that you build helps people learn knowledge or skills, right, to allow them to reach the goals that relate to your brand. So the bigger the goal, the more people you can attract, right? Because it's a bigger idea. So you help them reach the goal by solving problems and taking on pain points. So your content should really argue across achieving specific goals that are important and give people knowledge and, of course, the tools and education, right? Solving these problems that are standing in the way. Now, one other thing is that these people also need direction. So it's motivation that really entices people to be attracted to you. The problems are what people solve, actually things that change. But do you solve their problems? Do you save them from the potential paths they can take? It's not really that true, right? People don't really have clarity on their next steps. They may feel overwhelmed, bored, anxious. And this is what causes problems in relationships, right? Or bad business decisions. Even battles between our political parties are the same thing. It's basically people who don't share the same worldviews, right? They're missing the pieces of other people's paths. It makes them be aware of different situations. So we don't really listen a lot. So when you are the niche, your job is to create a holistic path that step by step can share with your listeners, readers, people who are watching your content. And that's usually in form of a product, service, or even for our case, an educational platform. That way they get more out of what you're trying to do and the results that you're trying to understand. But there's a reason why my philosophy here is the content that introduces people to a lot of the business aspects, because they're learning from me because I've had a very similar experience to what they've had. They may have tried to run a business or an agency, and now they're trying to get better. So I'm really hyper practical, who appropriates to the guy who's looking to go from maybe $1 million to 2 million, or from zero to a couple $1 million. So I kind of think about that in my philosophy. It's the people who are starting out with potential. They haven't been able to succeed. So I can teach them from my experience. They're going to learn from me based off of what they are looking for. So beyond goals and problems and potential paths, our systems and our products really can reach these people to solve these problems. The things that basically influence people and perceive them to take goals are things that are experiences and stories. They love to hear beliefs as well, and all sorts of things across all domains of life. That's why I think the personal brand is becoming more relevant, because it explains a lot more, because it's hitting consciousness and unconsciousness. It's hitting the known and the unknown. So your job is to educate a person and raise their consciousness, raise your audience's consciousness. A brand that actually gives value, someone who actually teaches somebody, that improves their life and basically gives them a lifestyle of your strategy, really becoming involved in your audience's problems, and to argue the importance of the goals and to illustrate the impact of what this will do. So the benefits of achieving this and getting rid of these pains is 101. This is persuasion 101. Your niche, the thing that you're doing, is framing big goals and burning problems that compose your viewpoints, right? So your job is to program the mindsets of your audience to adopt the frame, your worldview, your goals, to see their mind through your strategy. Now, this is a massive undertaking, and it's a fulfillment, and it's a life purpose, right? So in a nutshell, you have to be attracting people to their own goals through you. So you're helping them solve problems with your content, and your product is the implementation. In our case, this is our training grounds and our academy. Um, so actually, to go beyond changing the problem, but changing behavior, right? So since you have to persuade and change people's minds, you have to understand that this is also a big responsibility. Something I'm learning too, which is taking a lot of responsibility is emotional labor. It's like a big thing in life is changing your tracks to be responsible for emotional labor. And that can actually be pretty fulfilling, but it can also turn pretty crappy because if you haven't the ethical dilemmas around the problems that you've had in the past, if you haven't solved them yet, then you're going to have a problem. So niches are supposed to be specific, right? So let's talk about that. How more specific can you get, right? Giving a desirable goal that someone wants to change in their mind, a burning problem, right? That you ease the person who's watching your content and suffering, you ease their mind, right? So it's building a clear path and a system that solves problems, solves people who are either reading or watching or dealing with your content. The goals and problem will always become similar to someone else's because we all have similar problems and situations. Everyone has the same goals and problems, right? Health, wealth, relationships, happiness, they're kind of all the same. But the path that you're making is singular to you. So everybody wants financial freedom, no question about it. But two people have to take two different paths. You may go the social media and online business route with, let's just say, building an agency or doing, e-commerce or having a unique set of experiences that are associated with that. Someone might also go into like investing, right? I've done lots of real estate investing, and there might be other things, right? But remember that every other skill, the interest that you learn along the way, aids in achieving to your balance of all your goals, right? So like me, if I'm journaling or you're journaling and you're going on a walk and you're thinking about, doing things, no matter what you direct in achieving your goal, it still plays a role in your life, no matter what you do. So think about all the benefits, the skills, and the billions of bits of information you process along the way towards achieving your goals. Isn't this the most unique niche in the world? So your job is now to document your mind, the experience, and put it out there on the internet. That's it. That's what we need to do. Your job is to attract a specific group of people. You do this by putting down your information, writing the ideas that make sense to you from your vantage point, your view, your worldview, your point of view. This specific group of people who you are attracting are going to have some similar personalities. That's how you set yourself up to create a product, right? So we're setting up an academy to teach people that sells without people making research. They don't have to look at me. They're like, I like this guy. I get it. So practically, when you notice the idea in your brain, your point of view, that's what makes you unique. So take the ideas you already work, post them up under your brand. Now, we'll talk about this in a little bit more, but you actually have to get online to do this. And you have to outline this stuff and put it into your niche. We need to create a book, right, of your life that you're going to be talking about, your content, your products. This is how you create a niche of yourself. When you document yourself on the internet and you create your own niche, right? You're doing your niche. You're being out there. For us, it's 1,000 pieces of social media content per day with me being in the front of it. Your mindset, past, present, and future, right? Persuasive manners to attract people to have similar personalities. Maybe they're behind you a few steps, maybe way behind, but you can actually help them. You're going to outline the structure just similar to like a book you'd write about your life. This can be used for pattern recognition for people who are looking for you as a solve and content creation. So creating an outline of everything that you have that you want to do. We call this living louder in our, because the people are going to notice that you have more ideas and conversations. And the more things you read, the more things you're able to connect with, the more things that you notice, you fill in this outline of kind of continuing to build a better product. You'll notice more opportunities for yourself, right? You're also building a content plan for the next many years. This is just beginning stages for most people. And then you repeat and refine this over and over and over. That content over the next year, you keep doing better and better. This is how you're going to get people out there. You start to, again, keep people in your, if you have newsletters, or what we do is we send out, a review of what we're doing, and you're going to post everything. Basically, you're going to write down everything in all these threads, the 7 to 8 different social networks that are on there. Your skill sets, your interests, your mindset, everything you find valuable, just whatever you think is good and valuable, put it out there. Because the thing here we have is that it takes about 6 to 12 months for this to actually resonate. We're actually in month 3 and it's already happening really quickly. So people just don't see you as a brand. They see you as the brand. The brand is in depth. It's you. It's the stuff behind me. It's everything. It's the vision. It's the goals. It's the problems. It's the things that we help solve. It's literally everything. It's becoming a solve for people who are looking for the same thing. And you just can't illustrate that with one piece of content. So this is going to happen. And it will be, as I've experienced, it's going to take, and I estimated this very easily, it's going to take 6 to 12 months to build a personal introductory brand. That's how long it takes people to see you and trust you so that you get authority. Again, so if you think about even yourself as building a book, it's like someone who's reading you is usually steps behind you, and you want them to learn how to sort of write this process behind you. So if they're now writing their book for themselves. So what happens is that they learn how to be better by going after all the ideas that you're ahead of them on. Now, the first part of you is to really think about yourself, again, as a book. You're writing things down. You're continuing to have a conversation with yourself about your story and your brand, and you're writing it down and you're getting it into production. You're putting it on video and putting it out there. It's important to get everything clear so you can get your framework set up. So this personal experience, right? It makes it completely unique. That's the most important. It's not like shallow. So you need to go and have these examples put down. And this is why I write in advance. I have literally pages and pages and pages that I write on a daily basis. I only pick a few things that are really important, but I talk about my experience, about going through all these things. Ben, I probably sold to 100 different niches, but the reality is that it doesn't really matter, because what I've come back to is that I really solve my big problems. So think about this for yourself. Where did you start? What struggles did you have? What was the climax of your last journey? For me, it was selling an agency, right? I built an agency for 10 years and I sold it, and exited with 7 figures. So how did you achieve this? What was the desirable outcome, right? What helped others? What topics, interests, and skills helped you get there? Remember, all of these things are important. Now, what you want to do is think of this again like a book, so you can start to talk to people about it. What's your philosophy, right? How do you get people on the same page? How does it mean to live a good life? For me, I want to have time to be healthy. I want to have time to write songs and be on the stage, right? But that's not yours, right? Yours is something else. And you can do this. You can write it down, or you can actually talk to a video at this point. Might make it easier. So if you constantly illustrate the importance of what you believe in and what your ideal future is, right? This avoids the enemies of your brand. So if you're describing your future and your lifestyle in detail, what goals are you leading people to? Where are your followers going towards? Who's the enemy? Who's the person in the way? I have this down, 10 separate specific future lifestyles and things that I want to do and the things I want to avoid. What are the beliefs that you have that you consider sort of like extreme or offensive, right? What's the importance of all these topics, right? The skills you've learned. What does it build towards your ideal lifestyle? Take time thinking about this. This outline, and these things can be as long as you want. I summarized it down from many pages to 10 summaries of things that I wanted to do. These answers will form the majority of your content. It's exactly how I've done this, and it will build your authority, right? This is what makes you unique. Again, we call this the living louder doctrine or mantra. And I have these other videos that I've talked about this on. Now, this is how you build authority, by educating your audience. So let's get into part 2. So really what we're talking about is the job of educating people on these skills. Right now we're getting into the mechanics of this that will achieve the vision, your philosophy. Literally teach them the skills or your interests and how you've learned it. There's only so much that can be said about this, because again, you're not creating anything new. Every person's experience and niche is really kind of the same to some degree. You're simply creating a library of information on your own personal, under your brand. That way people can learn from you. right? We call it the Profit Engines Academy, where I can teach people everything that I've experienced over the last 15 years building an agency. But don't fall into the trap of just taking somebody else's information because it's too easy. You have to assume they're not going to go anywhere else but learn from you, and that this information is very specific. And there's a massive difference between organic content, right? And really the intentional searches. People on social media aren't actively looking for education. Right? They kind of get poked into it because they already kind of know it, like what you're up to. But they can't just search for it because they don't have a reason to really show them why you're valuable enough. So they really should solely learn from you. So don't ignore this because it's important. Any idea, so think about this. Any idea that you can see and you want to put underneath your brand in form of the content, save it. Save it and make sure you keep all of these information posted for later. Again, I've got books of stuff that I've written that I've written organically. Say it from your own point of view, right? Align goals and shape the goals based on your perspective and your situation. You might take other information and redirect it, but put it down in your own idea strategy. Think about the goals in the future that you want, right? The how everything relates to it. And again, all your content can be unique and individual to yourself. The other thing that's really important, and it's taught, I think, is that it's going to be important for your followers to you become the first level. I always just say I am the first, right? It's coming from me. This isn't coming from somebody else. This is my experience, right? And also thinking about this power of now, right? Which is, anybody who hears about this personalized business, right? This what I would call, single entity niche is to make it easy, right? To make it easy for them to get into this production and make them remember you, right? How do you make people remember you? And that authority of giving the person to talk about the educational and philosophy is about practicing repetitive strategies, right? It's continuing to improve upon the ability to practice yourself and get your readers to get better at their skills and interests. So whether they're watching videos or whatever, but the key is to write out these plans for your audience, to learn these skills and these interests that are coming from your own personal brand. Write the product and services down that you want. Put your name on it, that this is your service, that you are creating something. There's something about what I've always considered this 1% better, right? It's almost like a book I want to write. I always tell my team, I want everybody doing 1% better every day. Keep practicing, keep writing things down, and keep improving it. Again, putting your name on it and saying to somebody, basically, spin it to you. If you like something and you want to improve upon it, you've got to continue to write it down. I know this is something that's hard, but this is the practice stage, right? So behavior change, right? This driver of authority and recognition. So when you've got this down, when you've got the social media going and you've got emails going and you've got this stuff down, you're going to start to blow past other people because it becomes more relevant. So now we understand this niche. We understand how all of this stuff is important. We understand how to create this niche of personal philosophy and building infrastructure. And again, like what we do is we take this personalized content and put it out to 1,000 points of light or 1,000 pieces of content per month. Believe in yourself. But let's talk about the psychology of interest and how to talk about whatever you want and still think about this, paid for doing it. Now, I've been working on trying to change businesses and landscapes for years, right? And I get this question all the time, which is if I talk about my interest in everything, but it gets no engagement, what if my audience doesn't care? What if nobody cares about what you talk about? So I think this is where you have to understand the difference between content and product. See, people think content is all about like promotions, like getting people to buy something. And then they only write content that leads to this strategy of getting a product sold. That's why they become boring. People don't want to listen to them. So we should niche down about, again, compelling information that establishes our authority and our uniqueness, and then go into the next stage. So you don't have to talk about it in your content. Now, you can write one post, you could write one letter, you could do one video, you could do anything and break those content pieces down into ideas. And then those things all become evergreen pieces of information that you can put into production. So everything I'm saying now that goes into YouTube now is something it's important. It's just wise to continue to keep writing and be more specific about being towards a non-salesy way, right? The occasionally times that I do write about something that is in a sales matter, it's specific to just a product or something where I'm trying to get people to go to the next stage. And the inference of building a landing page that people go to, that they've now trusted me and that's something that's valuable, right? It's about being clear that this is something that is advantageous and that I'm not trying to sell them, I'm trying to move them and transition them. And we see this too often where people just want to post visual attributes and images of a product or something where it really doesn't necessarily help people in this particular case. See, people are really trying to follow social media to get entertainment and get information at the same time. Sometimes you can't do this by being overly boring and not helpful, right? So if it's your life's work, it's important to you. So what could be better than your life's work that you're trying to explain to somebody? That's why this is interesting. People also try and add name drops. Like if I say Gary V or I say somebody else that's, let's say, in this industry, and they think it's a good idea to sort of connect themselves to these higher ended officials. And then you're going to click on it because you see some celebrity or something like that. But it doesn't relate to your true worldview. And again, if you're trying to be a picture of this idea around connecting yourselves to other people, it doesn't really, because they'll start to perceive you as transitional. So what I've always do here is become as human as possible. So if you inspire people, again, if you're trying to become human with people and you're trying to take this content and actually talk about the things that people want to know and show up for, they will be more interesting. You'll never find anybody who will follow a company account. Who cares about a company? Nobody does. People follow educators, entertainer, and inspiring people. Think about it like this. There are a few people like, let's say, Red Bull, who have a massive following because they don't have any content other than inspirational stuff, right? That it's the lifestyle that they're trying to do. So if all you're going to do is talk about your product or your service, it's going to get completely boring and leave people unengaged, right? The real exponential growth is becoming involved in personal branding right now. I think the most potential traffic for your product or service in general is just building this brand. So what happens if you only talk about the interest or skills that make you money? First, you get low engagement, right? Because people really don't care. If your content doesn't get shared, meaning that if your content's not going to be interesting, you're not going to grow. Second is you don't build trust and authority by doing this. So you have to stop thinking about how to monetize and start thinking about what you're going to monetize, let's say a year from now or 12 months from now or 18 months, right? Because if you want to pivot and you want to have a real brand, you are going to want to be trapped necessarily in this cycle of the niche, right? So if you don't want to be trapped, if you want the thing that you see is a question that's coming up, like if I write about my interests and I'm building my audience and I'm growing, then what do I promote? If you want to be trapped into that cycle, which I think is important, you just need to separate the two things: content and product. Create a content schedule, right? Create this schedule where you're doing X amount of posts per day, or a newsletter per week, or a thread per week, and then put it into production. So if you're going to promote anything, you need to make it sparsely involved, right? So if you do this and you create a system that now gives content, gives value, gives interest, gives your personal worldview, and then you move into eventually putting people into some sort of product or service that's separated from your content. So you do your content stuff and then you do a product. Well, now people are used to seeing your content, right? Because if you're moving yourself into a content production house and you're growing, you can now field product or actual stuff that you need to do for your product when it's appropriate and it's not specific. But if it's not working, why isn't it working, right? Well, you have to do really good content. And that's one thing that people don't really realize, and that the value has to be so crazily insane now. I mean, really good. So you have to think about the thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. But the cool thing is, people have multiple interests, and it's crazy. So you can attract people and adopt people into your world by, again, having your worldview. They may have an interest, makes sense to you, makes sense to them, but people become interested in you as a person as opposed to a brand. That's why I'm saying having separate content pieces and separate product pieces are important. So we need to do this by the benefits of achieving the goals of what we're talking about. Make people aware of these pain points, right? We talked about this before. And that's what turns people into fans, right? Is to do all the things we're talking about and then solve their problem. Someone may follow you for some interest. Like they may follow me because they see the guitars and they think, oh, he's a rock star and he does this rock star stuff and I'm interested in that. Or they may follow me because of my experience in doing med spas and selling hundreds of med spas. But then they follow me because they hear the content and they're like, oh, well, this is actually cool. So they're getting involved in me from a different way. So again, your interest layer and the multiple rainbow of stuff that you have out there is it's really cool to think that you could be found for one interest, but then they see your worldview and they become a super fan, right? And now they want to follow you around. I find these people that are in my group, and this is what can happen to you. So it's very important to talk about multiple interests, right? Your personal brands should also do this without trying. You can't try to do a personal brand. You have to actually be yourself. So if you want to post about something, and let's say you want to talk about something, and you want to talk about something that's of interest, they need to be something that's very conscious and very complete to your. The best thing about personal brands is that it becomes unconscious to you, right? This is the unconscious competence. So what I do on a daily basis is just without my knowledge. People look at me, they deem me important because they illustrate, or I illustrate, I mean, the fact that they know that I'm going to solve their problem because they've listened to me enough times, they're interested in me, and because it's valuable. And so if it's valuable to them, they may share this. And it might be valuable to some other people. So what you need to do is first concentrate on the education you're going to bring. Adopt the mindset, right, of your past self as an absolute beginner and think about what you needed to know. How could they get from where you were from before to where you are now? Post about that, right? Focus on understanding. So zoom out on the whole gaps that you know were your knowledge issues, the things that you didn't know about, that you know people would like to know about, that you know that from your worldview, that you now know these things. Post that. Now, focus on importance. Analyze the things in your life. What do you do? Why do you do the things that you do? Why do you do what you do? Why do you only have these skill sets and beliefs that maybe millions of other people could have? Why are they your skill sets? So people think they're not necessarily niching down in your world of talking to a couple of interests when there's a lot more interests, right? It's very cool by just niching down to niche you as the niche. That's what's interesting. Why did you take this path? Post that up. Take a video. I think these are the things that are going to have you thinking about building your own personal structure. Now, whether you can get something more out of this video by understanding the concepts of building, checking yourself through this next stage of evolution, which I call kind of U 2.0, using the living louder strategy of building 10 goals that you map with your own personality and you describe to other people to let them know, these are all things you can do. But the best thing you can do today is like or subscribe this video. All right? Well, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Again, thank you for joining me. I'm interested in the human nature, and I hope this session provided you with some insights and some clear understanding of what I'm thinking and to make it yours, truly your own.